Be careful, APC Chairman Adamu warns Machina over senatorial ticket tussle with Lawan. And Ekweremadu and wife in UK prison over alleged organ harvesting, I beg your pardon. Well, this is Plus Politics. I'm Mary Anacon. The national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, APC, Abdullahi Adamu, warned Bashir Machina over comment on the party's senatorial ticket in Yobe. The ticket has sparked controversy after Machina won the party's primary. He made it that he would not step down for Senate President Ahmad Lawan. Now, Lawan had contested for the APC presidential ticket, but he lost. However, Lawan, who represents Yobe North, was eventually listed as senatorial candidate for the general elections. Joining us tonight to discuss this and more is Babasola Adegbuyi. He's a political analyst, and Opunabo Inko-Tariah is a former special advisor to the Rivers State Governor and a rights advocate. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Good evening. Good evening.
Great. It's good to have you.
Good evening, Nigeria.
Great. It's good to have you join us. We have seen the whole dummy ticket thing play out. I mean, before now, it was the delegate situation. Everybody was talking about delegates. They seem to have dominated the headlines. But now, dummy tickets or placeholders seem to be the order of the day, and we have seen that play out in the Senate President's situation in Yobe State and in Akwa Ibom State for former Governor Godswill Akpabio. And one would wonder why this would hold sway. But then some people even credit this to the new electoral law, saying that this has opened a can of worms. Opunabo, I want to start with you. Where do you stand on this dummy ticket situation?
Are you talking of the Machina situation?
Yes.
Ticket?
Yes.
Okay. It's quite highly provocative. I listened to the APC National Chairman Adamu, and it is quite characteristics of that man who has this predisposition for authoritarianism and a predilection for transgression of laws. The man who contested the election, the primary, was Machina. And I think that was sometime in May. And what was his name? Lawan went for the presidential ticket of the APC sometime in June or thereabouts. And he lost. Now, the argument is that Lawan contested the primaries. Well, assuming without conceding that he even contested, who won the primaries? That is the question. That is the conundrum. The man who won the primary was Machina. And unless Machina writes to INEC, to the party first, and later that letter will be transmitted to INEC, unless that happens, and it will be voluntary, unless that happens, Lawan cannot claim to be the candidate for the senatorial ticket on the platform of APC, which is not possible. And this political, what I refer to as political bludgeoning by Adamu, should not be proved by anybody. Because what he is saying is not within the cognizance of the Electoral Act. And the Electoral Act is clear on this, quite lucid on this, that the candidate must voluntarily withdraw in writing, and that must be transmitted to the party and to INEC. And you now have to conduct fresh primaries. You see, these are all electoral obligations, procedural obligations that must be met if you have to substitute a candidate. Therefore, it is surprising that INEC will upload the name of Lawan as the candidate for that senatorial seat. I am very happy. It is actually gratifying to note that Machina has sworn to fight this. He has, and there will be a judicial pronouncement on this. And
Okay.
I have a settled conviction that the judgment will be in favor of Machina unless that judgment is procured.
Okay.
And any judge who does that, of course, we all know what is going on right now in the judiciary. Any judge who does that should be sanctioned because these things are in black and white. They are clearly stated in the Electoral Act and lucid. So I cannot comprehend where Adamu is coming from.
Okay.
That should not be broke. That level of integrity should not be accepted by anybody. And that is the problem we have in this country, where people will want to transgress the laws with impunity. I am happy that Machina is resolute on this, and we are waiting to see the eventually turnout of events.
Let me go to you, Babasola. I'd like to quote exactly what the APC chairman said to BBC Hausa, referring to Machina. He did say that if you do not know how to set a trap for a thief, the thief will set a trap for you. He said Machina should be careful. His issue is getting out of hand. And he said, as far as I'm concerned, as chairman, my party did not violate any law. Some would call this a threat. Some would say he's speaking authoritatively as a chairman of the party who's trying to make sure that its house is together. But what are your thoughts?
Well, the first question I will ask the chairman of National APC, the national chairman of APC is the bylaw or the constitution of APC above the Nigerian constitution? If not, so whatever he's saying is just wasting his time, because the truth is, you cannot be threatening a man who has won an election. There was a call for people to buy forms. He bought the form. There was a primary that was held. He attended the election and he won the primary. Now, you for calling on the guy to step aside for someone who did not contest for that position is totally unconstitutional. If the INEC goes ahead with the election and presents Lawan, they have not done the job for Machina. Because at the end of the day, Machina will win the election, either in court or anywhere, if APC wins that particular general election. If not, all the threats by the national APC will end the APC, regardless of who you are. You don't threaten other members of the political party because of the interest of one man. When Lawan knew that he was interested in going back to the National Assembly, why did he go for the national president primaries election? So it shows that it's all about the individual and not about the interest of the party, as far as I'm concerned. And another thing is this: I don't know if there was an agreement, even if there was an agreement between the two of you before going into the primary election. Machina, for him to say he's no longer interested, regardless of what, that agreement is not binding on anybody. Although it is what we call a betrayal of trust. So you cannot hold him responsible if the party wins or loses. So it's his own election. What they will just do for him is to help him win the election, and that will be the end. And at the end of the day, just like the other speaker said, he will be the winner of the election if APC eventually wins in the general election.
Talking about the law now, because a lot of people have been making reference to the fact that, there are certain rules and regulations, and if this must be done a certain way. I'd like to quote the human rights lawyer, Femi Falana, who spoke on this issue. He did say that there are ways in which this can be handled. And the only way that Machina and, of course, Akpabio can have their names legally on that list is if the other people voluntarily withdraw. Now, but what does this say about the ruling party and handling of issues that have to do with some form of legality, especially in this case. Again, I want to go back to what what Adamu said about Machina. He put out a parable, of course, but then he also said that it's getting out of hand, and he will, as a party man, do the necessary. Do we see the APC adhering to the rule of law here, or are we going to see another show that might, one way or the other, cut corners as against what we would be expecting during this election? And like I said at the beginning, how does this make the party look at a time like this? Opunabo?
Well, you know, sometimes... Who's talking?
Go ahead.
Okay, sometimes we need to look at what is on ground. Adamu, the national chairman, can use his own role, his own position to do whatever he likes, but the rule of law is still there. The worst they can do is to allow the other political party to win by not supporting Machina in the general election that will be coming up in the next election.
But can they afford that? Can they afford that move right now, knowing that, as Fani Kayode had spoken a few days ago about 22 candidates in the senators might be leaving the party? Two already have left. Two people have left the APC. Can they afford losing to the opposition, knowing that this might deplete the number of senators on the floor of the National Assembly? Can they do that?
Yeah, it's possible for them to do that. It is very, very much possible. As long as we still have the INEC, if you look at the INEC timetable, there is still time for replacement of candidates. So now it is all about the highest bidder. If you go to a political party that is ready to present a party, that's ready to present a candidate, and the candidate is ready to accept a ransom, I can tell you that candidate can step aside for the other guy to come in. I think INEC has up to July 15 for replacement of candidate. So it is still possible, anything can still possible between now and July 15. So all the judge need to do is to continue to talk to Machina, but threatening Machina will not solve any problem.
Okay. Opunabo, I'm most interested in the part where INEC was or had received the names of the former governor of Akwa Ibom State and, of course, the Senate president, as opposed to the people who actually engaged in the primaries. What does this also say about INEC in itself?
Well, the integrity of INEC is at stake. I am a little bit dazed to hear or know that the names of Senator Tussle and targeted by that, because INEC is quite cognizant of the law. You see, there are no two ways. Like I rightly said earlier on, the law on this is loosey. What is the provision of the law? Machina will have to voluntarily resign, withdraw, communicate same to the party, then the party will now transmit that letter of withdrawal to INEC. The questions you're going to ask, what are those burning questions? One, who contested? Because you must have primaries. And a candidate must only emerge after the primaries. Whether you even partook in the primaries, the issue is who was declared the winner at the primaries. That is one. Now, that candidate that was declared is the man that in the eyes of INEC, is the man that is going to contest the general elections. That man has the right to withdraw. And that's why you have that provision. Now, when he withdraws, and it must be voluntary, he must not be coerced. So even if today they say, oh, the man has withdrawn as a result of Adamu's pressure, he has been coerced. He was stampeded into it. So it will be illegal. It must be voluntary. To write to the party will now transmit same to INEC. Therefore, the man who contested was Machina. The man who met was Machina. How on earth did the name of Lawan appear? I'm not even bothered about Adamu. Adamu can say any kind of thing he wants to say. I don't give a damn. Adamu is not INEC. Adamu is not the law. My problem is INEC. How did the name of Lawan appear? And I told you, how did those names appear? That is the burning question, or rather the next question. Because even if they go to court, they will lose. So I am really taken aback. I am shocked that a man who never contested an election emerged as a candidate. We Nigerians will not allow that. We will not allow that to take place. And I'm enjoining Nigerians to rise up to this occasion. We cannot allow anybody to just come and join us with where they like and have their way because they are in positions of authority. This is infernal, completely infernal and not acceptable. So we want to see the end of this. And of course, INEC will be joined in the suit because they have to come and explain to Nigerians, to the court, how the names of Lawan and Fabio appeared. You must explain when they did not contest the primaries. Okay. It is highly ridiculous and provocative. Okay. This is enough to stimulate crisis in that state. And I bet you, if they are not careful, the APC will lose, the APC will even have the candidate, but it will lose because right now the candidate is Machina. But it will definitely lose the election if they don't put if David does not put his house in order, it will lose that election.
Okay, I think that we're having a little connection issue with you, Opunabo, but let me toss back to get some clarity in terms of what the APC has learned and hasn't learned. Now, Babasola, we see that in 2019, there were lingering internal party crises, pockets of these issues, whether it was in Kwara, whether it was in Zamfara, whether it was in Rivers. There were these issues that somewhat was a setback of sorts for the party. Do you think that the APC has learned from what happened in 2019? And if they have learned, how and why do you think that this is happening now in 2022? It might not be the same thing, but we're seeing a type and a shadow of what had happened in 2019. Has any lesson been learned? And could this be mopped up as soon as possible to save face for the party?
Well, if I remember very well, I think what actually happened in 2019 was a matter of APC not fielding a candidate, and at the end of the day, the court had to stop APC from contesting in election. Well, I am not a member of APC. I cannot tell you if they have actually learned or not, but to the best of my knowledge, they have not learned. Not only from what happened in their own political party, but in Nigeria political party generally. This is not the first time this is happening. I remember, was it, the Rivers State government then, Rotimi Chibuke Amechi, actually won the primary election. PDP fielded someone else to contest for the election. And he waited for the election to end. And he went back to the court, this is my case. And court removed the sitting governor and put the owner of the seat there. You get, so if we are to talk of learning, they have not learned. And according to what Opunabo said the other time, if you go ask someone to do something, that person is under duress. It's more or less like that person has not willingly done it by voluntarily resigning from that race. So what that means is that at the end of the day, he can still go back to court and still get back his seat if APC eventually wins, because we have been made to understand that it is not the individual that wins the seat, but the party. And if Adamu is not careful, I can tell you, APC will most likely lose that position in Yobe North. And everybody will lose. And that is all.
And finally, Opunabo, I'm coming to you now. Knowing how the law works in Nigeria, sometimes, you know, justice has its day. but half the time, some of these cases don't go the way we expect them to. And if this were to hold sway, for example, if this were to slide through with INEC having received Akpabio's name and, of course, Senator Ahmad Lawan's name as those who contested for the primaries, and these are the candidates for the elections come 2023, if this were to sail through, what precedents are we setting for every other political party and the electoral process in general, being that this might just be something that everybody might take up later, because if there's a precedence, people will always point to it. But is this something that we want to allow history to quote us on?
Yes, Marianne, yes, I agree with you that, like you insinuated, in most cases in Nigeria, the rule of law is caged and administration of justice roundly subverted. I agree with you. Judgments are procured in most cases in this country, but I honestly cannot fathom how the judges will stand the law on its head in this particular matter. You see, the only negative aspect of this is that if APC had a chance to win that ticket, it is definitely going to lose that ticket as a result of schism in the party. But that Lawan will be the candidate in the general elections is highly impossible, almost impossible, and I want to call on everybody to ensure that that does not happen. You know what that means? It's like you, Marianne, contesting after the primaries, contesting, going, it's like you now, I think I'm from Akwa Ibom. INEC will now put your name on their portal as the governorship candidate for PDP. There is no difference. That is what it means. Because if you don't contest, so you can take anybody from anywhere to put anywhere. That is not allowed. I mean, that is complete, and is a prescription for anarchy. How are you going to explain that? So I don't think we should not even conceive it, because the conception of it will even give them some sort of gumption, as if it is possible. It is impossible. It is like batting on a sticky wicket. It cannot work. INEC does not even have the powers to so do, because the hands of INEC are set up by the Electoral Act. So it cannot even have the powers to so do. That will be active ultra-virus, and it could not be tolerated.
Okay.
If they have the names of Lawan and the names of Akpabio, they should come and delete those names and throw them away and allow those who want the primary to go ahead with the primary. The only negative aspect is that APC is going to lose, because PDP will take advantage of that. But we should stop tolerating nonsense in this country.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you. Babasola Adegbuyi is a political analyst. Opunabo Inko-Tariah is a former special advisor to the governor of Rivers State. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We'll keep our eyes on this story and watch it as it develops. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you for staying with us. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we will discuss the alleged organ harvesting case against the former Senate President Ike Ekweremadu and his wife. Stay with us.